Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I think all of you can easily feel the effect of deviation from our normal lifestyle due to present pandemic situation. But at the same time, today we are here to remind you the serious problems in context of cancer. Why? Just wait. We'll be coming soon. But before doing so, I must say this webinar program is jointly organized by the Department of Botany and IQAC of Navadvip Vidyasagar College. At the same time, today we have our respected principal, sir, Dr. Shapon Kumar Roy. Thank you, sir, for being present with us. And we have our renowned resource person, Professor Shubhrojit Bishas, in University of Amity University. Thank you, Professor Bishas, for sharing your valuable time with us. Now, I would like to place my request to our respected principal, sir, to forward his welcome address on behalf of Navadvip Vidyasagar College.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Kaushik Sengupta. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You are clearly audible.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik Sengupta. It is my great pleasure to welcome our distinguished eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Shubhrojit Bishas, who is attached to Amity University UP campus, and you actually know on what topic he will deliver his speech, that is on cancer microenvironment in the context of stem cell and targeted therapy. We are very much grateful to him because he has consented, he has given his consent to be a speaker or resource person in this webinar. Thank you, sir, for your presence, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Secondly, I want to congratulate our organizing committee, actually the members of the organizing committee who are actually actively associated with this webinar. Dr. Shubhodip Chakraborty, Dr. Kaushik Sengupta again, Dr. Damayanti Bhattacharya, and our IQAC coordinator. Every time he is present, Dr. Chatterjee, Bhaskar Chatterjee, who is from the Department of Chemistry, and actually the key persons who are behind the screen, that is the team of technical support who are actually watching this. Mr. Dipanjan Ghosh from the Department of English, Professor Rajkumar Mondal from the Department of Physics, Mr. Amalendu Das, who is our most favorite teacher, librarian, but he is very much actually engaged in such type of work. Mr. Amalendu Bishas or Amalendu Das, I thank you all. And lastly, I express my thanks and gratitude to the actually participants who will be benefited by his lecture, by the lecture of Professor Dr. Shubhrojit Saha. If they are actually if they get the benefit from your lecture, I will think that the webinar will be a successful one. So all the viewers or the participants who have joined this webinar, I express my thanks and gratitude from the end of Navadvip Vidyasagar College, from the end of my side, and from the end of our president governing body, Sri Biman Krishna Saha. Thank you all. I am waiting for the success of this webinar. Thank you. Over to Dr. Kaushik Sengupta.
Thank you, sir. We are really honored to have you in our session. Now, our convener, Dr. Sathi Dashu, will introduce our speaker and address the participants. Dr. Shu, please. Can you hear me, Dr. Shu? Please turn on your speaker. Okay.
Okay.
You are audible.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sengupta. Very good afternoon. Heartiest welcome to all the delegates, our respected speaker, and participant of this national webinar organized by Department of Botany in Aegis of IQAC, Navadvip Vidyasagar College. We are so excited for organizing such an academic discussion through online platform for the first time. We are thankful to our Honorable GB President, Sri Biman Krishna Saha, for his continuous support. Our special thanks to our Principal Sir, Dr. Shapun Kumar Roy, and to be honest, this webinar in his brainchild. We again thank him for his continuous encouragement. My special thanks to my colleagues, Dr. Kaushik Sengupta, Dr. Damayanti Bhattacharya, and Dr. Shubhadeep Chakraborty. Their constant support and knowledge enabled me to be here. And also thanks to Suraj Bonik, our departmental non-teaching staff. Our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Bhaskar Bhattacharya, also collaborated with us. We are thankful to our academic convener, Sri Dipanjan Ghosh, for his continuous support, convener of Technology Upgradation Committee, Sri Rajkumar Mandol, and Mr. Amolendu Das. And last but not the least, we are thankful to our technical supporting team for their great effort. Today, we have with us Professor Dr. Shubhrajit Bishwas, our honorable speaker. And let me introduce him. Dr. Bishwas is a professor of Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. In the year 2011, he received award in recognition of excellence in cancer research from Vanderbilt University Medical Center, USA. He was a prominent postdoctoral fellow there, and he was also a postdoctoral fellow in Medical University of South Carolina, Charleston, USA. He is the principal investigator of leukemia scheme from LTMT National Cancer Institute, London, UK. At present, he is an active member of European Association for Cancer Research. So, cancer is one of the leading causes of death in present world. Mainly it is treated through surgery, radiation and chemotherapy. But major disadvantages are side effects of target effects and drug resistance. Furthermore, recurrence is very common. Therefore, scientists are working for more effective and target-specific therapies. Stem cells may serve as novel delivery by homing to and targeting cancerous cells, and they are engineered to express cytotoxic agents. Cancer microenvironment includes the surroundings, normal body cells, signaling molecules, extracellular matrix around a tumor, and the interaction between the tumor and the components of its microenvironment constantly affect the growth and evolution of cancerous cell. Conventional therapeutic screening is performed to tumor cells only without the accompanying microenvironment. But recent studies revealed interesting therapeutic target in the microenvironment itself. On the other hand, within tumor, there are some stem cells called cancer stem cells, which are usually resistant to conventional radiation and chemotherapy. They may be responsible for metastasis and recurrence. So they are very important targets for next generation anti-cancer drug discoveries. Dr. Bishwas, our honorable speaker, will enlighten us with the recent researches in this field. So I call upon Professor Bishwas to kindly deliver his speech, Cancer Microenvironment in Context of Stem Cell and Targeted Therapy. Thank you. Dr. Sengupta, please switch over the microphone to our honorable speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Shul. Actually, you have correctly sorted out the exact connotation of our today's program. And you know, there are more than 15 different types of cancer can be controlled under targeted therapy. Not only that, that in targeted therapy, the drug can target only the cancer cells without doing any harm to the normal cells. So these are the advantages and importance. Well, I think this is a high time that we are waiting for, and I'm requesting Professor Bishwas to start his study. Professor Bishwas, please.
Thank you very much for a kind introduction. I want to thank all of you and Principal Dr. Shopon Roy and Kaushik Da, of course. Shuddhadeep is coordinating with me from morning once, and from briefing for cancer and targeted therapy. I thankful to Dr. Swati Dashur and our understanding on extracellular matrix and targeted therapy. So can I present my slide? Hello, I'm audible.
Yes. Hello. Yes,
Yes.
you are clearly audible. You can start your presentation.
So my skin is coming. Hello. My skin is coming.
No.
Hello.
You just the screen is not yet coming.
Okay.
Go through the present now. Share your screen.
Oh, yes. Is it coming? Yeah, it's coming now.
Yes, it is coming. Now it is coming.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, it's okay.
So this is cancer microenvironment in context of stem cells and targeted therapy. So here you can see that is one cartoon I mostly like, that is Tom and Jerry. That is actually a chasing question is what is the targeted therapy and how we can work on the stem cell therapy. So from last maybe more than 10 years, I was working on the cancer and especially T cell leukemia as well as liver cancer. So currently I am in Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. So it's a research-driven institute and we are mostly dedicated in the research. So what important thing, what I want to emphasize today, that is how we chase the cancer therapy, which become more critical with different parameters. Like you can see in one side, that is, I have quoted incident, and one side is the aging. And people after born, people are getting older, and day by day, that is the incident of the cancer and the probability of the cancer is increasing. And we are losing the regenerative capacity of our cells, as well as tissue growth. So things is that if we summarize about the cancer microenvironment and how it's undergo towards the metastasis and encourage dependent survival of the cancer cells. So there is a few steps. Maybe some of you already knows it, and this is a common slides from the one Nature review. So that is, you guys know about the solid tumor, and I subsequently, that is a tumor microenvironment, maybe go to the metastasis. So here that is important step is the upregulation of pro-tumorigenic lot of gene signals, and ultimately the stromal cells, I'll go in later, that is what are the stromal cells, increase the ECM secretion. ECM is nothing but the extracellular matrix, and organization, this step is called desmoplasia. And when there is a desmoplasia, there is a migration and invasion. And you can see there is a cancer cells. And when there is a migration and invasion means that is a increased extracellular matrix leads to the stiffness of this microenvironment. And there is some signaling pathway, that is one of the signaling pathways called TGF-beta signaling, that is EMT, and then ultimately it goes to the metastasis and anchorage dependent. So here in the picture, you can see these are the cancer cells, and one side that is normal fibroblast. And what is fibroblast? Fibroblast is actually one kind of mesenchymal origin pericyte cells, which gives the all collagen, hyaluron, those kind of the extracellular matrix in the tumor microenvironment. Now in the right side, you can see one protein's name is given. It's called lysyl oxidase. And what is lysyl oxidase? So it's actually the cross-linker of this extracellular matrix. So with the help of cancer-associated fibroblast, which is ultimately derived from the normal fibroblast, the extracellular matrix is cross-linked by the enzyme lysyl oxidase. Now, of course, that is one therapeutic strategy we can think about, that if we inhibit this cross-linking, so we can deviate the cancer environment. Now, next step is the formation and metastasis needs and colonization. Actually, it's called extravasation. And finally, it's caused the cancer cells are going throughout our body, and its problem and the mortality is increasing. Now, things is that is we have already, that is the immune system in our body. So this is the general feature. So why is a cancer is a burden having the proper immune system? Now, when that is cancer cell comes in our body or the tissue, maybe it's a liver cancer or whatever is the cancer, the cancer cells cannot survive if proper immune system response comes over them. So here in the down, you can see this is a cancer cells, and the cancer cells, and this is called the dendritic cells. So cancer cells and dendritic cells interact with each other, and cancer cells secrete some kind of a chemokine, that is CCL4, and other chemokines, which ultimately gives signal to the lymph node, that is tumor draining lymph node, and where the T cells, I'll tell a little bit later about the T cells. So T cells, maybe you guys know, that is one of the important immune cells, and CD8 is nothing but is a cytotoxic T cells. And when cytotoxic T cell comes towards the cancer cells, actually it's also encouraged to activate another immune cells is called NK cells. NK cells is nothing but natural killer cells, which kills the cancer cells. So ultimately there is a no proliferation, or there is a cell death of the cancer cells, leading to the less. So now if it is a solid tumor, there is no issues. But if it is a metastasis, then cancer cell have to think about how they will survive in this tissue or the microenvironment. You understand what I mean? Now, there is some oncogenic signaling on the immune cells which inhibit the pathways that leads to them more cell population or proliferation. So it is a little bit crowded slides and no need to remember all things, but you can see that is one protein is called beta-catenin, and one site is called MYC, MYC, that is TP53, and LBK1. Okay, so these are called oncogenes. Now, how these oncogenes is function in the tumor cells, and you can see in the slides the all over, that is the T cell priming is down, T cell infiltration is down, and whatever I have shown in the previous slide, that is CXCL, this signal is gone. That means when the beta-catenin expression is there in the tumor cells, it is the inhibiting the priming of the immune cells. On the other hand, when the MYC one of the another oncogene is expressed in the tumor cells, it also leads the expression of some other proteins or receptor proteins, like here I have mentioned here, that is CD47 or the PDL1, that is program death ligand 1. And this is a macrophage here acting as a antigen presenting cells, and the cancer cells and antigen presenting cell associate with each other, and it is falsifying the immune system to work against the cancer cell. So that is the major problem in the immune system, and it is mimicking and it is hiding within the tissue and growing itself. Now in the lower panel, some genes is there, that is P53, and P53 is very well-known oncogene, and it's actually tumor suppressor, and some cases you'll find it is an oncogene. So it's a very dynamic proteins, and sometimes it's leading to the oncogenic proliferation, and sometimes it is leading to the tumor suppressor effect. So mostly, as per our research, we know that is most of the various cancer has a P53 mutation in the liver cancer as well as breast cancer, and when there is a mutation of this P53, it is also inhibiting the recruitment of the T cells, NK cells in the environment. Same thing in the LBK1. It is when there is a mutation is there, then it is the secreting more neutrophil in the microenvironment, and microenvironment creating the inflammatory surroundings, and ultimately it's creating the tumor microenvironment and inhibiting the immune systems. So that is oncogenic signal of the cancer and cancer stem cells, also depending on the context. So the last two slides are a little bit serious slides. So it's an easy slide. Like I was working on the oncogenes for a long time, and one of these, this is a little bit old paper in 2013. So I was working on one protein, it is called BEAT. It is a BCL2 family member, and maybe some of you, or maybe you heard about that, is BCL2 as one of the popular oncogene proteins. Now BEAT has, it's called that is BH3 domain BCL2 proteins, and it has a role on apoptosis, it has a role in cell cycle checkpoint, it has a role in cell death, it has a role in cell cycle. Now question is that for a long time, maybe 20 years, people are working on that, and I was anyways. So people are confused with the mechanism how the BEAT is regulating the cancer cells or stromal cells. Now my finding is there, that is BEAT has a both role in the cell death, and sometimes it has a role in pro-death, and sometimes it has a role in pro-survival. So this paper came in the editorial choice, and editorial choice in the first page they have given these two pictures as well as the explanation of that. Maybe heard of that, the famous pictures, the Schwarzenegger's picture. There is a 3 movie release, one is Terminator, and one is Terminator 2, and one is Terminator 3. So you can remember, if you see the movie, so Terminator, in the Terminator, the first movie, the Schwarzenegger was the robot, and he's a killer. And when there's a second movie, that is a Terminator 2, Schwarzenegger becomes the protector of this boy who is a son of one big scientist. So it's a science fiction movie, but its role is completely opposite in the 2 movie. So like that, BEAT is acting that differently in the depending on the stem cells and the cancer cells. Depending on the context, it has a role of oncogenic, and it has a different role of tumor suppressor. So we have make one cartoon, that is BEAT has a role in the death, and it has a role in suppression of the proliferation. So it has both good sides and the dark sides. So when BEAT is inducing the cell death of the cancer cells, so of course it limits the propagation of the oncogenic lesions. So ultimately there is a tumor suppression. And the dark side is when the cell death occur of the cancer cell, that is, it is enable the compensatory proliferation and associated DNA damage leads to the mode transformation. So it is very hard to understand the biology, but I'll explain a little bit in my subsequent slides. And on the other hand, that is when it is inhibiting the proliferation of the cells, the good side is that cell cycle arrest is there is a DNA repair, and ultimately there is a tumor suppression. But dark side is that it's actually limiting to the other checkpoints, and the accumulation of the DNA damage leads to the mode transformation. So depending on the context, the BEAT and other BCL2 family members are acting as a tumor suppressor and sometimes it's an oncogene. So it's a very complicated biology to understand, and how we'll target this oncogene, that is a big question for a long time. Now, we are in the big puzzle with the oncogenes and their mutations. So I have shown a lot of genes and a lot of signaling pathways in my slides, but no need to remember, but things about that is how we can recover from this big puzzle with the oncogenes. So my hypothesis, why we are cooking the dog instead of killing him. So what is a poking dogs I want to means we are doing a lot of genomic studies, we are doing proteomic studies, we are doing metabolic studies, and send this data to the big brain to analysis, and we are looking for the different immunological parameters, then epigenetic modulations, etc., etc., etc. And day by day, we are unable to manage how this total number of the oncogenes, total number of the mRNA are controlling the cancer cells, and we have to take help from the artificial intelligence to study the big data of the cancer genomics. And apart from that, of course, we had a different additional puzzles in the medical research nowadays, and Kaushik already mentioning that is we are in the pandemic situations, and we are looking for the different vaccines. And in India, we are progressive, our Pronil is coming, but how it will be effective, there is a lot of questions of theirs. But things is that this pandemic situation, like several OPDs is closed, and medical research, of course, is little bit difficult, but people are doing, we are trying to do something there. But what I am trying to emphasize that is, if you associate with any hospital, like I am very associated with the All India Medical Science hospitals. So cancer patients are already staying in the beds, and they have to leave, and they need the bone marrow transplantations. So medical people have to work. So this is the program, whatever it is pandemic, whatever it is, COVID virus will go, or we don't know, but we have to sustain with our common problem, that is the cancer and the therapy. So what is the basic problem in the cancer treatment? So Dr. Shati already mentioned, that is the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. Now all of you know that is in the newspaper, you find that is a lot of celebrities from the Mumbai, when they found they have a cancer. So they went to United States for the high facility of chemotherapy and radiation therapy. But when they came back, you can say there is of course, there is a lot of side effects. That means that in cancer cells, and another is called cancer stem cells, are always resistant to the death. So that is the results we have found, that is the, excuse me, I'm audible. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. So actually, I was thinking that is maybe I am out of track. Okay, thank you.
No, you are clearly audible.
Okay, thank you. So if it is, this is a result. Now, what is the solution? So I have taken one cartoon from this movie because I like this movie. In Einstein, it is a Delhi-based movie. So anyway, we have to sensitize the cancer cell towards state, but it should be targeted way. That means if we kill the cancer cells as well as the surrounding cells, it's not logical. So that is the major problem. Even believe and trust me, still we are suffering, and the scientists as well as clinicians we don't have proper targeted therapy in our hand for the clinical trial. Things are going in the clinical trial, it's going in the phase 2, phase 1, phase 2, but maybe in the third phase, there are several failures is coming. So we have to be targeted. So here you can see, I have shown one pictures of Amphan is coming. So we know about the targets, right? And the Amphan will come in the West Bengal. It will a chance to destruction in some part of the Odisha, some part of the Bangladesh. But if we are the West Bengal peoples, if always think about the case how we have to survive, and we don't think about the surrounding parts, that is also more problem. So one of the surroundings of the cancer cells is called the cancer stem cell. Now, cancer stem cell, how it is originated? It's very complicated question. So cancer stem cell can originate and reprogrammed directly from the cancer cells. Otherwise, somatic primary cells gaining the stemness property also can be the cancer stem cells. So what is the cancer stem cell? So maybe if your textbook who wrote that, the stem cells definition, if we simplify that one, that is when one cell is dividing, so there is a two cells become. So one is, two cells are the, you can say, differentiated cells. Now one cell, if it is exactly intact of these mother cells, that is actually stem cells. And one is the progenitor cell. So stem cell has a property to keep aside one same kind of the cells with it, and other is the progenitor cells. Now what is the progenitor cells? If you think about the blood cells, it's coming from the hematopoietic stem cells, and all are red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets, all are derived the differentiated cells, and the lymphocyte origin cells are the T cells, B cells, those are fighting for our immune systems. Now, so we have to think about that is, okay, we have killed the cancer cells, but in this microenvironment, if this cancer stem cell is remain there, then there is a big question, that is the cancer stem cell create a more problem, and this is the major cause of recurrence and cancer relapse after the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. So I have worked on the cancer stem cells. So this is my laboratory essence. So our major research focus on the development of the strategies to antagonizing either anti-apoptotic proteins or the inhibitor of the apoptosis to promote the induction of the cell death in malignant proliferative cancer cells and cancer stem cells. So this is the laboratory is based on the translational cancer research. So we our graduation course and post-graduation course, we know about the transcription, translation. That is the different. That is the process of DNA replication, that the process of making the proteins. But this translational cancer research mean we have to together work with the clinical research, have to be cooperate with the basic research as well as the improve the health. So what is the translation means from the basic to human research understanding is the basic research. When it is translated, that is the translational research. So normally that is Department of Biotechnology, and I'm working with Department of Science and Technology. So all India funding groups, now we are telling about the translational cancer research, and we have to improve for the more with the more technology based. So now this is the slides, and say I have a maybe 1 hour time for the talk. So I cannot say about the tumor microenvironment of the all cancer because it's a huge number of channels of the cancer research. You can think about the nasopharyngeal cancer research, thyroid cancer, breast cancer, renal cancer, colon cancer, ovarian cancers, gliomas, and the lung cancer. So today, let's talk about a little bit seriously with what I am very closely associated after coming from the US, and I joined in the Institute of the Liver and Biliary Sciences. So liver cancer is called the hepatocellular carcinoma. So this channel is on. So if the liver system technology fails, then the cancer cells generate within the liver. Now all of you are very familiar with the liver because we like to eat the liver goat because we are Bengali, and in every Sunday we like liver. But this is the liver cancer, what happens here. Now, the first symptom of the liver is, that is, maybe you heard about the jaundice, and in the jaundice, that is, the eye become little yellowish. That means that is, we have a one liver biliary system containing the pancreas and biliary system associated with this liver, and if it is the liver function is abnormal, there is a biliary duct is little bit abnormally working, and the bile is come into the blood, so it stunts the yellow eyes. So in the 28th July is the World Hepatitis Day, and all of you know that is the liver function, or liver dysfunction by the several ways. It can be dysfunction by the viral infection, and hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and hepatitis B vaccine already available, and from the childhood, all of us is taking hepatitis B vaccine. And hepatitis C vaccine was not available before a long time, but in the from the China as well as Indian research, now so-called HCV vaccine also available. But problem is not only vaccine, and we take the alcohol, and from the alcohol also there is a disturbance in the liver. Now question is, that is, virus infection is one thing, and we are still thinking and big trouble with the virus infection. But apart from the virus infection, everyday basis, we are taking lot of junk food. Even me and my director in the institute, all are mostly concerned about the metabolic related liver disorder, and this is the degenerative liver. So how we work on the liver? It's very simple. That is, it's called the liver biopsy. So if you puncture over there, this is the position of the liver. So small splinter core of the tissue removed from the biopsy needle. So we can do research on what is going on inside the the liver, and how much it is damaged, we can study. So the total is study called hepatopancreatobiliary and liver transplantation surgery. Now, question is, that is, if the liver is completely damaged, so that is, there is no issue, you can do the liver transplantation. It is costly, but it's not that much costly. So it is possible, and our neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Burma, they are all dependent on us. And I was working in the institute, I already mentioned, the Institute of Liver and Biliary Science. It is the only super special institute in the India, in the Asia. So anyway, we have a system for the liver transplantation, and plus point is the liver cell regenerates. Now let's talk about liver microenvironment, and it's like our recent announcement about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And if you enjoy that things, that is, there is a 5-pillar Modi is already declared, that is economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand. So here you can see small intestine, and the oxygen-rich blood is come in the small intestine. And of course, it's our economy. Without fuels, we cannot live. And ultimately, the infrastructure means the hepatic portal vein, right? So from the hepatic portal vein, for the intestines, that is our nutrition-rich, oxygen-poor blood is going to the liver. Now that is the liver, that is the measure assimilation, and we cannot say it's a digestion, but all breakdowns of these carbohydrates and metabolism, all metabolisms are occurring in the liver, and the metabolic products is coming, and the oxygenated with the deoxygenated blood, and because it's the opposite artery, so it's going to the hepatic vein, ultimately interior vena cava leading to the heart, so it's giving the heart speeds. So it's our demands, our oxygen we are living, and this is the made in India. So if you think, look at a little bit more about the more partition of the liver. So this is the liver map. So in this there is a central vein, and you can see there is a 3-vein one, and the blue one is the portal vein, and this is the biliary ducts, and another is the this is the central vein, and this is the portal vein. That is 2 vein is the 2 apart. Now, when the portal vein is bringing the oxygenated blood and all cell proliferations and everything is starting over, and hepatocytes is the building block of the liver, actually start the regeneration from here, and slowly hepatocytes is getting aged and going to the central vein region. So that is where the liver is regenerates every time, and this is our plus point. So if we have some portion of the liver is damaged, and if there is a cancerous portion found in the liver, so if you cut and chop this, and remaining liver portion of the liver can make the total intact liver. So that is the plus point of the liver, and it's easy to study the tumor microenvironment because other leukemia and it is very tough. So this is my slide of Swachh Bharat. So normally we have to clean the liver road. So what is the road? I have already mentioned that is the portal vein and the central vein, and in between this is the road where all immune cells, this is platelets, T cells, Kupffer cell is nothing but the resident macrophage is residing here. So all are moving to this in between that. And another one interesting cells I want to emphasize there, this is called hepatic stellate cells. And you can see that is two sides, that is hepatocyte layer, that is the 70 to 80% of the liver cells. Now, apart from the liver cells, those cells are the very important to know and how this disease progression. So 2018, I have drawn these figure, and you can see when there is HBV, HB toxins and ROS signals. So liver cells, that is hepatocyte, secretes some inflammatory signals. This is a little bit crowded sites, no need to remember everything. And it's called the Kupffer cells to activate, and ultimately that is NF-kappa signals on. And it is also secret the one important proteins is called TGF-beta, that is transform growth factor beta, and ultimately leads the activation of the hepatic stellate cells. So hepatic stellate cell usually is a dreaming condition or it's a quiescent state and Z0 cell cycle state, but when it's got the signal from the macrophage population, it's become activated. And when it is hyperactivated, it's called myofibroblast, and ultimately it secretes all extracellular matrix and leads to the fibrosis. This is the first stage of the damage of the liver, and ultimately when there is a excessive extracellular matrix and it's very stiff, it's become the cirrhosis. On the other hand, Kupffer cell also leads to some important signals leading by the interleukin 6, and when the STAT3 mediates some signals, and ultimately if there is any mutation over there, it's caused the hepatocellular carcinoma. So now, liver cells ego is our burden. So this is the interesting research I do, and ultimately there is caused the research. So I can hypothesize some liver cell have ego on hepatocyte regeneration capacity because other cells can't regenerate, but they always disturb the liver cells whenever it's needed. So objective is to reduce the ego antagonizing the survival signal. So what I mentioned, that is somehow we have to kill these egoistic cells. So today's story is the fight against the two egoistic cells during the liver injury, and one is called hepatic stellate cells and one is called sinusoidal endothelial cells. In these slides I already mentioned, this is the hepatic stellate cells and this is the sinusoidal endothelial layer. So it is actually nothing but the blood vessel layers. So you can see that is how these two hepatic stellate cells and sinusoidal cells interact with each other. So this is actually in vitro three-dimensional collagen chain with the two-dimensional substrate, and this is the lining is the in vitro condition. In vitro means in the laboratory three-dimensional we can culture the cells, and this is early stage fibrosis microenvironment, and this is a late stage fibrosis and cirrhosis microenvironment. So when this is a early stage and late stage, you can see something kind of the different, right? In the here, this is the endothelial cells, and the blue dots, those are the hepatic stellate cells. And hepatic stellate cells is secreting the extracellular matrix. Now, almost the early stage and late stage, in can compare which one I can say married life. So trust me, I have also experienced like that. So in the initial stage, we talk very still, soft, like the interaction between the hepatic stellate cells and endothelial cells is very strong. But when the excessive collagen is lot of kitch come in our life, so it's create the congested microenvironment and leading to the fibrosis. And it happens in my life also. And I can introduce my wife. She is working now in All India Medical Science. And trust me, in the after coming back from US, we got one grant from Department of Biotechnology on the SMAC mimetic role in hepatic stimulation, and she also got one grants on the endothelial sinusoidal cell role of endothelial cells in hepatocellular carcinoma. So initially our interaction is lab was moving, running, and interaction is very soft. But when the PhD student is not working, chemicals is problem, there is a lot of issues coming. So ultimately the relationship becomes this deep. So don't take it otherwise, but it's my joke. And this is the easy understanding of this early stage of liver and the late stage of degenerative liver. So this is the steps, that is when the inflammatory damage is there, that is early fibrosis, it leads to the cirrhosis, and ultimately there is a two ways you can do the liver transplant and the hepatocellular carcinoma. And I already mentioned about that is three major kinds. One is fibrosis, one is cirrhosis, and one is hepatocellular. So liver environment changes due to different ways. So what is the how we can recover the damage? So we can cessation of the damage, we can release the stiffing between the balance of inflammatory and resolution. So today I'll highlight mainly on that this portion, that is how the activated stellate cells is secreting the extracellular matrix and how we can control the secretion, and if it is already extracellular matrix is there, how we can degrade the matrix to revert back the cirrhotic microenvironment or microenvironment towards the normal level. So ultimately, so this is the few results. So extracellular matrix, one of the important matrix is the hyaluronic acid. So you can see here, that is I already mentioned, that is equation hepatic stellate cells. This is activated hepatic stellate cell, and this is myofibroblast. Then activated hepatic stellate cell is secreting hyaluronic acid. Now, when we study the hyaluronic acid with the endothelial cells, we use the endothelial cells directly isolated for the mice. So proliferation of the endothelial cell little increase, but this is the picture you can see that is called scratch assay or the migration assay. You can see when the cells are treated with the hyaluron, the proliferation is less. You can see in the 48-hour little bit hollow, but it is very close over there when the hyaluron is given. That means the extracellular matrix is increasing the migration of the endothelial cells. So this finding also interesting, and I have mentioned about one oncogene that is called beta-catenin, and you can see that is beta-catenin without treatment and treatment is different. You can see clearly that is the red color, and usually it is called the immunofluorescence. The immunofluorescence nothing but one kind of the tag is present in the antibody, and we can detect the protein is overexpressed or not. And the horse is stain nothing but the nuclear staining. So this is the March image. You can see that is beta-catenin expression is more over there. So now when the beta-catenin expression is based on the mother signaling pathway is called Wnt pathway, and normally the Wnt pathway is off, then beta-catenin normally degraded in the cytoplasm. And when the Wnt signaling is on, then beta-catenin is entered into the nucleus, and it ultimately leads to the VEGF activity and the angiogenesis. So this study already we did, that is hyaluronic liver drives the liver endothelial cells toward the angiogenesis and metastasis. So you can see that is when the overexpression, hyaluronic concentration is more, that is VEGF, that is called vascular endothelial growth factor 1 in increasing, VEGF receptor increasing, along which VEGF protein is increasing, and the beta-catenin expression is more. And this is a simple, the matricial tube assay, it's called, that is tubular formation of the endothelial cell is increasing. So we have already designed and conclusion that the hepatic stellate cells secrete the hyaluronic acid, and the normal process, it goes and endocytosis in the endothelial cells, but when it is overexpressed, there is expressed the beta-catenin entering into the nucleus, it secretes the VGFs, and VGFs is ultimately leading to the increased tubular formation and the adhesions. Now, this is the point, point I want to erase is that is HA-driven angiogenesis. Now, how we can recover this angiogenesis? So we continuously working on this, and I'm showing this one publications. That is, this is the one plant product called the columbine, and this is actually nothing but the diterpenoid. And diterpenoids has an effect on the reducing the angiogenesis effect caused by the endothelial cells. So you can see this is the untreated one and treated one. Here the tubular formation is more, and this is tubular formation is less one. So we did a lot of bioinformatics out there, how the columbine is interacting with the vascular endothelial growth factor receptor. So it's already published paper. Now I already mentioned that is TGF-beta. Now how we'll do the role of the hepatic stellate cells in the cancer biology, especially towards the liver cancer. So I have already mentioned these slides, that is question HCC, activated stellate cells and activated. So in the in vitro condition, when we treat the cells with the TGF-beta, this protein, it's became hyperactivated. And when the hyperactivated cells has a lot of proteins is called survivin family proteins or IP gene expression. So what is IP? That is inhibitor of apoptosis. That is survivin family, right? If it is the inhibition of the apoptotic protein is expressed, that means cells want to be survived more. Now, normally quiescent state, when you are giving the TGF-beta is coming from the macrophage population, it is hyperactivated the hepatic stellate cell. This is the some works I'm doing. So survivin signal is increased in the activated hepatic stellate cell. I already shown it. But how we'll do this study in the human? It's very tough, because how we'll continuously assess the human body, how it is generating and the damage occurring in the liver is very tough. So we do in vivo study. It's called mice model. I'll show some slides over there. So when we do, that is some cytotoxics induce the liver damage, like CCL4 induce the liver damage, and we found that is in the damaged liver, the survivin expression in the hepatic stellate cells also increase. So what is survivin protein? So survivin protein is very important protein, and this lack of endothelial survivin can cause embryonic defects in angiogenesis, cardiogenesis, and the nubile tube closure. So normally this survivin protein is very urgently needed in the developmental stage, but when we are growing in the adult cells, there is no need of the survivin cells for its need for the initially differentiation stage. But in the time of the tumor microenvironment, when there is a egoistic cells, the endothelial cell is interacting with the hepatic stellate cells, it is activating survivin protein, and it is encouraging the tumor cells to increase the survivin protein in the both cells. So that is the problem we already find. So now why we'll do that? So we can think about the targeting the survival protein and antagonist with survival signal. What I'm trying to say for a link team. So this is I have written one. It came in the newsletter. So that is, we need some kind of the inhibitor of the survivin. So survivin only expressed in the tumor cells, only expressed in the hepatic stellate cells, but not expressed in the normal primary hepatocytes or surrounding cells. So if we kill this and some inhibitor of the survivin, we can do the targeted therapy for the eliminating the detrimental hepatic stellate cells, detrimental cancer cells. So you can see in the when we are giving this one inhibitor is called WAM155, the survivin expression is low. And this is the scratch assay I have already mentioned, that is in the 0 time point. You can see that is the cells migration is you can see here, that is when that TGF-beta is giving, there is a migration over there. So cells are migrating. But when this WAM155 is given, the migration is low. That means the 55, that is inhibitor of the survivin, is not only decreasing the survivin expression, is decreasing the wound closure and decreasing the collagen contraction, that is the picture I am showing, and ultimately it is increasing the cell death. So this is the flow cytometry data, and flow cytometry we usually do by the annexin PI, the annexin 1 substrate, which is bind to the phosphocellin. I'll show some slides in future. So we have also published in the cancer medicine. So you can see that is therapeutic target of harmful hepatic stellate cells to limit the fibrogenic response in the liver disease. So here I want to emphasize that when that is this is the TGFT, that TTED is there is a migration over there. When YM155 is given, the migration is slow. So that way we can target, and this is the things that is quiescent HSC and activated HSC. Survivin is overexpressed. This is the activator markers. And when we are giving the pharmacological inhibitor, so migration, contractibility, and the ECM related proteins all are decreased. Now, what I'm telling about that is the normal fibrotic and cirrhotic composition. Let's talk about a little bit the hepatitis B virus. It's a DNA virus. And how we do the research on the hepatitis B virus is very tough. It needs the BCL3 high lab facility. And other ways, one is protein is called HPX, which is secret in the hepatitis B. And usually hepatitis B virus vaccine is generated based on the HPX antibody protein. So we can express the HPX protein into the normal primary hepatocyte cells as well as stellate cells and endothelial cells. So this is simply hepatocyte cells and HBV infection based on the overexpression of the HPX. So when the HPX is there, then you can see that is the IPS protein is called inhibitory of apoptosis. I already mentioned it is induced the NF-kappa B pathway, and ultimately that is cells are surviving, and HPV is facilitating the expression of the more IPs and IP NF-kappa B. But birinapant is nothing but one IP inhibitor, and like the survivin antagonist that is I mentioned in the last slide, YM155, we are also using the birinapant. It is also IP inhibitor. So IP inhibitor antagonist promotes the HBV infected hepatocyte death. So that's what we want. And also that is one find that is the antagonist has a one special function. It can polarize the macrophage population. Now what is macrophage? Macrophage is very good populations, and in the some macrophage is the resident macrophage, and its Kupffer cell I already mentioned, it's present in the liver, and other macrophages directly come from the bone marrow. It's called bone marrow derived macrophage. There is a two subtype. One is M2 macrophage. It's called pro-tumorigenic macrophage. One is pro-inflammatory macrophage. It is a M1 macrophage. So usually first time in the microenvironment, it has a good role. M1 comes in the any injured microenvironment to recover this injury. But when they associate with the tumor cells, like tumor-associated fibroblasts, it's become the M2 macrophage. But this drug has a potential to polarize the M2 macrophage to M1 macrophage. It is very good things. So we work on that. So this is the headline I have written, the art of cell death with the immune modulation in resolution of the liver injury and cancer. So we published paper, and one of my good friends and collaborators called Thomas Kaufman, he is now in Switzerland. So when I was in US, he was in Australia. So we back simultaneously, and now he is Switzerland, I am in India. So we work on one protein is called ART. It's nothing but septin-4. It's natural IP antagonist. So IPs has a migration, invasion, and cell proliferation, and it has a role in monocyte to macrophage differentiation. So I am elaborating this picture, and to easy to understand, that is the quiescent hepatocyte I already mentioned. So IP is actually inhibitor of apoptosis, so it's an inhibition site and activated. But if you do inhibitor of EV inhibitor, that is a SMAC mimetic, then again that this partially senescent cell or activated senescent cell, you can go towards the apoptosis again, so cell death. So that is where the drugs work very targeted way. It is the only antagonizing the IPS protein which is activating in the activated stellate cell as well as cancer cell On the other hand, this SNAC mimetis is modulating the M2 subpopulation to M1 subpopulation. So pro-tumoric to non-tumoric microenvironment. So that is where I have written that is one shot we are trying to do two targets. One is where we are killing the cancer cells, we are killing the hepatic stellate cells, which is the detrimental cells. On the other hand, we are modulating the tumor microenvironment by polarizing the good subpopulation of the macrophage. So this is called the immunotherapy. So in our laboratory, we usually work on these monocytes. That this is the precursor cells of the macrophage, that is monocytes. We give the INF alpha and interleukin mediated 2 kind of the subtype, and this guy I'm showing this few culture picture. So we in our laboratory we can prepare the M1 subtype macrophage, M2 macro subtype macrophage. Then we can study the interaction of this macrophage to the other cells. So when study the interaction of the macrophage with the other tumor cells, like here you can say that this is a simple LH2 cells is nothing but the hepatic stellate cells. And the difference you can see here, that is we have given the conditional media, because what is the secretum coming from the macrophage? So this is the basal media, and this is the conditional media coming from the monocytes, and this is the conditional media coming from the M1 macrophage, that is I was mentioned already, very good quality macrophage, and this is coming in the M2 subtype of the macrophage. So now you can see that is here, that is when monocyte is given, that is there is a migration over here, till it is migrating. And when we are giving the M2 subtype of the conditional media, migrating more, because it's a tumor associated macrophage, of course it will migrate more. But when we are giving the M1 macrophage, this migration is reducing. So that is very interesting part to work on, that is at site, that is the one side we are telling this is the M1 population, if we able to modulate in the tumor microenvironment, so this is the permanent solution, and there will be no side effect like the other drugs have. So this is the alteration of the macrophage plasticity, also one kind of the important immunotherapy coming in the nowadays. And the before lockdown, there is a big conference in the United States on the emphasis on the only macrophage plasticity, how we can apply for the immune therapy in the different cancer. So it is an example of the liver cancer I already mentioned, because in the other cancer is very difficult to study. But we had a acute myeloid leukemia cell lines. It's called MOL13. So you can see here, that is the M1 macrophage is given over here, and M2 macrophage is there. And this is a simple flow cytometry data. And what is the flow cytometry? Flow cytometer is one instrument. And simply I can explain, that is where we can short the cell into the small tubes, and the individual cells will pass the small tubes, and their two sides, the laser beam will detect the light from the cells emitting fluorochromes from the cells. So annexin 5 kind of the fluorochrome, and the propydium also one fluorochrome. So when the cells undergoing apoptosis, you can see here the slides over there. So in the all cells has a bilayer of the lipid membrane, and this is the phosphoinositol in a phosphatidyl serine. So usually phosphatidyl serine is present in the lower panel. And where that is a cells is undergo the apoptosis, so there is a flip of the phosphatidyl serine towards the upper layer, lipid layer, then the annexin P can bind there. So this is the you can say, if you flow cytometry, the cell shortage, that is the chart, and this is the double negative population, double positive population, single positive, single positive. So the cells which is positive for the annexin PI are undergoing cell death or the apoptosis. And you can see one population is given to the acute myeloid leukemia cell lines, it is going more apoptosis. So this is the one initiation, and you can see this is the way we can do the targeted therapy by polarizing the macrophage population. And I was very vocal about that throughout the world, and we can reduce the hepatocellular carcinoma burden. So of course, this is the slides I am showing against. That is, I have already shown. That is the lysyl oxidase. One is a cross-linker in the tumor microenvironment. And whatever time spent, I'll discuss about this tumor microenvironment. So lysyl oxidase. So I have a one font came in the last year only. So it is the from the DST, Science and Engineering, and SARP, Science and Engineering Research Board, Department of Science Technology. So you can see here that is, I already mentioned that is when that is TGF beta activated LX2 is giving the lot of LOX, LOXL, LOXL2, LOX, all isoform of the lysyl oxidase is overexpressed here. So we can think about that is how we can degrade this extracellular matrix in the therapeutic way. So this is also kind of a targeted therapy to reducing the hepatocellular carcinoma burden through modulation of the extracellular matrix protein lysyl oxidase in the tumor microenvironment. So we have a different tools I have mentioned already. We have a IPS antagonist tool. We have a macrophage plasticity tools. We have a tools for the modulation of the extracellular matrix through lysyl oxidase proteins. So those the three way we are elaborately working on the research. Now this is my one PhD students is working. Vasundhara is working on the in vivo condition as well as in vitro condition. Now we isolate the primary hepatocyte cells or primary mouse hepatocytes or hepatic stellate cells, and then inject the different drugs and the interaction study with the different macrophages. So this kind of the study is called ex vivo study. So we already standardized in the lab. I already mentioned the Sachin's name. He is my one of the senior CSR SRF, and maybe this year he's submitting the thesis. So now all about whatever I mentioned about, that is interaction of the endothelial cells, interaction of hepatic stellate cell, interaction of the cancer cells. Now another parameter is the cancer stem cells. So that is, we also working on that. But one interesting finding we find that is, this is, you can see that is the intestine, and from the intestine there is a gut microbiota present, and all of us now more or less aware about that. Instead of, we always call that is our gut feeling. What is gut feeling? Gut feeling is nothing but inside our gut there is a very different bacteria present. Some bacteria is a good bacteria, like lactobacillus is very good bacteria, some bacteria is not good. So actually, honestly, there is several papers coming from the 2016 that is our gut is deciding our moods and everything, because every day morning whatever we are thinking, that is it's the influence of our guts. So it's already proved. So in the intestine, there is a bacterial infection. Maybe it's a pathogenic or non-pathogenic. So this is a very new study, and yeah, we published this paper. But in the, we have taken the colon cancer cell. This is called HTT2, and when we infected the cells in the cell lines, it becomes the cancer stem cells. It causes the cell pringal property, and it's already done in the in vivo mice model also. So in the cancer stem cell, there is a some marker is called CD44, CD31. So you can see that is the cells when this is control cells, and this is infected cells is leading to the excessive stainness marker CD44. So stem cells always when we talking about the cancer stem cells, so cancer stem cells also generate the different spheroids, and these spheroids are ultimately leads to the cancer development or the tumor development. And you can see with the infected colon cancer cells is leads more formation of the spheroids. And when we did the xenograft model, the mice model, that is the spheroids are injected into the intravenously to the one immunocompromised mice. What is immunocompromised mice? It is a immunocompromised mice. These mice don't have an immune system, so we can do the research. Normally, if we inject any cancer cell or your primary cells into this mice skin, so so it will not survive because immune system will reject the cells. So usually in the experiment condition, we use the immunocompromised mice, and this is called xenograft model. And when we given the two kind of the cells, of colon cancer cell, which is non-infected, and one is bacterial infected, what I was taking about the gut microbiota. So the infected cells is cause more tumor formation. You can see little bit more volume of the tumor and little bit more damage of the in the liver cells. But more interestingly, the all infected cells in the in vitro and in vitro possess the excessive stemness marker like CD44, 133. Then the mix I already mentioned, that is the CMYC is a oncogene, SOX, OC, NANO, those are all reprogramming related to the stemness. Now question is, that is, if the stemness in increase, what happened? So I'll tell about that. And you can see that is the survivin and IPs are also increased in the cancer stem cell in context of intestinal infection. So this is the COCO2 cells, and this is the normal cell, and this is infected cells. And you can see this is the Western blot. Western blot is nothing but we can see the expression of these particular expressed protein into the cells or tissue. So you can see here that is survivin protein is overexpressed. What I was telling from the beginning, IPs is expressed, XIPs is expressed. IPs and XIPs is nothing but the inhibitor of the apoptotic protein. So even the migration of the cells also drastically increase. So you can see in the spheroids, this beta-catenin expression, NF-kappa B, NF-kappa B, I have already mentioned those are all survival signals is increasing. So anyhow, that is not only the cancer cell, not only endothelial cell, not only hepatic stellate cells, the survival signals is also increasing in the cancer stem cells. So we had a project, so this she is one of the DVT chair. So what we are doing, that is we are using the antagonizing the survival protein using the SMAC mimetic. I already mentioned this about the SMAC mimetic, and the different concentration of the, when increasing the concentration of the SMAC mimetic, there is a tumorigenicity based on the presence of the liver cancer stem cell is decreasing. So this is simple the cartoon, because I cannot show the all results overall, but it's truth that is stemness is increasing along with the generation of these spheroids. But when we are giving or treating the cells with the SMAC mimetic, it is reducing the stemness marker as well as reducing the tumorigenicity in the xenograft model. So what else? What is the new about it? So normally in the tumor microenvironment, when we treat the any chemotherapy and radiation therapy, the tumor cells are killed, but there is a single cancer stem cell can cause the tumor relapse or tumor irradiation. So we have to think very carefully about the cancer stem cells, how to do that. So this is the SMAC mimetic, and we are trying to work on these small molecules and trying to get the patents, and ultimately it will go to the clinical trial. I am a basic scientist, I cannot do the clinical trial, but these clinicians will go for. She is the ICMR one SRF, she is working on that, and I have the ICMR project. ICMR is the Indian Council of Medical Research. So what are the conventional therapy? I was telling about the lot of therapy, but what are the conventional therapy? That is chemotherapy. And when if you go to the any pharmacy, you heard about that is imatinib, you heard about that is cetuximab, then you can heard about the sorafenib. So those are already conventional therapy, and there is a one organization in the United States, is called FDA. That is, FDA is approved different drugs. I don't know FDA will approve the Coronil of Ramdev or not. That is the different issue. But the FDA approved drug sorafenib is working for a long time, and it is already known that sorafenib has the effect of the cancer cells. So this is the one hepatocellular carcinoma cell lines. It's caused the cell death. It's already known and already published. That is new insight into the antifibrotic effect of the sorafenib drug. But in my lab, I was working on the sorafenib with the hepatic stellate cell, which is not known, because I am more interested on the what is side effect and what is going on inside and the surrounding cells of the cancer cells. So hepatic stellate cell I also mentioned. So when that is sorafenib is treating, we're treating the hepatic stellate cell with the sorafenib, we found that is it caused the extracellular vacuolation. And this extracellular fracturation is coming from the endoplasmic reticulum stress. So yes, stress. So this is a simple one. Immunofluorescence, you can see that is sorafenib treats lead to the yes stress. And yes stress is not good in the tumor microenvironment, right? It causes more hypoxic microenvironment, it causes more reactive oxygen species, and ultimately the tissue will be damaged and cancer cells has to be both progress more and more. So this is one slides, and we have seen for the publications, and it's already in the revision. And one is called the program cell death, and other is called the autophagy. Maybe all of you heard about this autophagy, but not necessary. It's a very complicated role in autophagic cell death is one parameter, but autophagy also has a survival signal. So LC30, that is light chain 3B1 protein, is autophagic marker, and you can see when that is low concentration of the sorafenib given to the stellate cells, the autophagic marker is overexpressed, but in the higher concentration of the sorafenib leading to the less. Somebody have to be mute the microphone, I guess. Hello, please mute the microphone. Thank you. So this is the higher concentration of the sorafenib leading to the less autophagic. So now this is sorafenib. We are telling about that is a lot of side effect. And honestly, I was working for the hospital for a long time, and in my CV you can see I'm working in the Medical University, South Carolina. I work in Vanderbilt Medical Center, then in the hospital, ILBS, and I talk with the different patients. And when I talk with the patients in hepatocellular carcinoma, they are surviving. So they told, they said, don't give us the food, the sorafenib, this drug. At least we want to survive happily. Because after giving the sorafenib, there is an excessive side effect. The patient cannot eat and cannot breathe properly, and it's always that is a vomiting tendency. So it's hard to live. So people are live, and instead of giving this sorafenib, the conventional drug, which is approved by the more than 10 years by FDA, AUS, and the patient survive only 3 or 4 months. And if this little bit lifestyle is good, they can survive maybe a year or so. So ultimately, there is no effect of sorafenib, and we are wasting our time with the drug sorafenib. So now we have worked on the different concentration of the sorafenib in the hepatic stellate cells, and you can see that is we have dig out the autophagic program cell death pathway. We have dig out the caspase dependent autophagic pathway, caspase independent pathway, and how it can bypass the autophagic pathway. So higher concentrations lead to the cell death of the hepatic stellate cell, but ultimately it's causing the ER stress, which leading the side effects, and it's disturbing the tumor microenvironment. So this way we make the tumor microenvironment in the animal models. So animal model, we give some kind of the toxic drugs like CCl4 is called carbon tetrachloride. So this is the fibrotic liver, and you can see this is the hepatocellular carcinoma with the dysplastic nodule over here. So we can see the different BCL2 family members, and this is the ALT and AST. If you has a liver patient, anybody from, if you maybe must be if diagnosis the ALT AST level in the liver, so it tells that is your liver is non-functional. So you can see that is tumor nodule. So we have to doing the research with the tissue and published paper on that. So how it is targeting. So I'm not going too much detail. Maybe you guys are too much exhausted with the cells. So some cells like malignant cells, and some cells are the non-malignant cells. Like BCL2 family, I already mentioned about the bead. Another protein is called PUMA. And when that is PUMA is high expressed over there, sorafenib is effective only. So that kind of the things already we have published, and we are working on that. The sorafenib is how we can increase the efficacy of the sorafenib, the conventional drug, but still it need to be worked more, and how it will work in the regenerative model. So this is the study we already doing in the endothelial cells. I have told about the hepatocellular carcinoma cells. So maybe I have a more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes times anyway, I can tell. So we are doing that is the interaction study with the endothelial cells and hepatocellular carcinoma. What I was telling now, that is interaction between the endothelial cells and the hepatic stellar cells. So this is the hepatocellular carcinoma cells, so metastatic cells. So HEP3B is a P53 null, and the HUS7 is a P53 mutant. So when we are interacting these P53 mutated cells, and you can say there is a proliferation is and migration in the case. So the elevated expression of the pro-angiogenic factor in the endothelial cells after interaction of the P53 silent hepatocellular also leads to the more angiogenesis. So one of my PhD students is elaborately working on that. So it's a lot of data to show. I'm just showing one interesting picture because I told about the beta catenin, and you can see that is the HEP3B plus the basal media, and this is HEP3B plus endothelial cell conditional media. HUBEC is nothing but human umbilical vein endothelial cells. So you can see when this cancer cell is interacting with the endothelial cells, how much beta catenin expression is overexpressed in the metastatic cells. So this work is already submitted in these good Nature Communications, and we are waiting for that. So I already mentioned little bit about the gut-liver highway. So I'm just talking about the liver and liver. So you can see that is the intestine, and this is bacterial overgrowth, gram-negative bacteria, permeability increase due to the alcohol infection also cause the different damage in the liver tissue and the liver microenvironment. So how I'm doing all this? Of course, there is some clinician needed. So one of my senior, that is his name Anup Surya, he is a head in the Department of the Gastrology in the All India Medical Science, and one of my active CSR JRF, she is working on the gut liver highway, and her work is based on that is the M1 macrophage and M2 macrophage I already mentioned. Apart from that, she is isolating the neutrophil population, which is mainly responsible for the inflammation. So there is a two kind of the neutrophil population, which is called N1 and N2, and M1 macrophage and N1 neutrophil actually promote the surveillance by the recurrence of the killer immune cell. When in the microenvironment has a M1 and M2 macrophage, it's a good in a safe. And when this microenvironment having M2 and N2 neutrophil, M1 M2 macrophage as well as N2 neutrophils is not safe, because it is the microenvironment help to escape the immune surveillance and ultimately promotes the metastasis and angiogenesis. So now what is immune surveillance? And I mentioned in the previous slides that is immune surveillance means in our system, that is the immune cells are always moving like these toll roads to serve, like a police officer is surveillance. That is this is the tissue is good only. What kind of the signal they have to give to to recover this particular damaged tissue. So this is the, I already mentioned, that is the therapeutic way to battle our liver cancer. We can improve the drug penetration, we can improve the immune cell function, we can improve the encapsulation of the tumor by antigen presenting cell like modulation of the macrophage. We can improve the inhibition of the tumor angiogenesis. We can decrease the cancer tumorigenesis by decreasing proliferation, migration using different survival signals. So another thing is the heard about the microRNA based therapeutic strategy in the cancer cells. So it's maybe overwhelming, so I'm not going too much details. So microRNA is nothing but a class of small RNA molecules around 21 nucleotides actually regulates. There is several processes including development, cell proliferation, differentiation, and apoptosis. So which microRNA is overexpressed in the cancer cells? Those are called oncomics. And which microRNA is not expressed in the cancer cells is called anti-oncomic. Now, so if you do the analysis by next generation sequence or RNA-seq, you'll find that is lot of mRNA is overexpressed in the cancer cells. Some mRNA is underexpressed in the ovary. Now, one of these mRNA is called MIL199. So we extensively work on this, particularly because this microRNA is downregulated in the hepatocellular carcinoma. It's already known, it's published, and people are working on that. So when you can see that is the MIR-199, this microRNA is injected into these cancer cell, hepatic cancer cells, it is undergoing more cell death. Maybe with my talk, you can see similar kind of the figures I am showing, that is annexin V and PI. So, and the treat with the microRNA MIR-119 leads to the more cell death of these hepatocellular carcinoma cells. Now, question is that is microRNA is very unstable. So how we can target or how we can inject this microRNA into the liver or tumor microenvironment? That is the big questions. So who will be the carrier? So we have worked on the bipeptide based nanostructure to deliver the microRNA for the liver cancer treatment. Now it should be very target, because the microRNA in the passage of blood, it can be degraded. It will not degrade if we conjugate with some nanostructure. And I mentioned it is dipeptide. Now there is a different cells over there. It can enter into the normal cell. It can enter into the cancer cell. So there is a one picture. You can see red color is called acyloglycoprotein receptor. So this receptor is only expressed in the cancer cell, but it not expressed in the other any cells. Now this is the lactobionic acid, that is LA, is a one ligand which is only bind in the acyloglycoprotein receptor. So we have prepared the dipeptide. This is the chemistry part, and we conjugate the dipeptide with the ligand is called lactobionic acid. This lactobionic acid now added with the microRNA MIR-199. So we got one microRNA bipeptide based nano conjugate, which is also ligand. Now when these conjugates will inject into the tumor microenvironment, it will bind only in the tumor cells. It will not bind any other cells, and this microRNA will inject into only the tumor cells, not in the other cells. So it's a very interesting work, and with the help of the one institute present in the New Delhi, it's ICGB. It's one of the PhD student, and we have taken the patent application for that because it's a technology we are already developed in that. And when we give this conjugate to the immunocompromised mice, I already mentioned it is xenograft, and you can see this this conjugate is only going when the tumor is there. And this is the immunofluorescence. This study is done in the one institute. Is called National Immunology. In immunology, this is the first department of biotechnology in India. So this is P. Nagarajan, is my good friend. He's a veterinary officer over there. So he's, with his help, I able to do that, and we published one paper in hepatology, and it's very high impact paper in the liver cancer. So we have done the targeted delivery of the microRNA with nanoparticle, reduce the tumor in mice xenograft model. So we are working on the nanoparticle, and we are making the nanovessels, and we had working on the targeted delivery, how we can take the drugs and drugs as a nano carrier we can use to deliver the drugs. So we published one. This is also high impact journal. This is the ACS Nano. I'm not going in detail. So this is kind of the engineering and physical science in oncology. We are doing that based on the tumor microenvironment. We are making the exosome for the drug delivery. We are working on the angiogenesis and metastasis. I already mentioned. I'm just going a little bit fast for the stem cell therapy. So maybe in the coming 5-10 minutes, I'll tell about the stem cell therapy. Excuse me, it's not late, or it's okay? Hello?
No, you are okay.
Okay. Maybe I'm telling a lot, but anyway. So this is the stem cell therapy. So stem cell therapy in the context, first what I want to emphasize is that is in the bone marrow is our reservoir. You can say it's a reserve bank. So in the bone marrow, there is hematopoietic stem cells. In the bone marrow, this is mesenchymal stem cells. When there is a liver injury, there is a stromal derived factors as well as granulocyte colony stimulation factor actually activates the hematopoietic stem cells to revert back to recover the liver injury. So this kind of the very interesting work, when I came from the USA, actually I was mainly appointed to do this kind of the work. And the hematopoietic stem cell, I already mentioned, that is when the hematopoietic stem cells, there is an injury in any part of this body, and when there is a pro-inflammatory cytokines leads to the push and pull theory, and ultimately it leads to the lymphoid progenitor, leads to the T cells, B cells, NK cells, myeloid progenitor leads to the neutrophil, basophils, macrophage, and the megakaryote erythrocyte platelets. So those are the differentiate. So this is one interesting labs in the very, I can say that is in the Baylor College of Medicine, that is the best lab in the world working on the sparkles. So we work on these hematopoietic stem cells. So this is the flow cytometry. I already mentioned about the flow cytometry. So based on the two markers, it's called c-KIT and the SCA. And this is c-KIT and SCA positive population is called the LSK, and this is lineage negative, is nothing but this, apart from this progenitor and the stem cells, we can eliminate these all kind of the mature immune cells. So we can isolate pure hematopoietic stem cell progenitor for the stem cell therapy. So in the on 2018, I had a one grant I got from the Fund for Improvement. It is called DST FISH projects, and it's a big instrument. It's a 2 crore instrument. We can do the sorting, the subset of the stem cells, immune cells, cancer cells to study the molecular mechanism. So this is our labs. So this is the flow cytometric analysis, and you can sort this small population of the hematopoietic stem cell for the stem cell therapy. So how I'm getting the samples? So he's my one friend from the ILPS. He's actually basically hematologist. So in the you can see that this is the immunohistochemistry results. So when it is very difficult to give the stem cell directly into the liver patients, but one drug is called granulocyte colony stimulating factor, which actually mobilize the hematopoietic stem cell towards the injury. So we able to recover a lot of paper. Its paper come in the gastroenterology in 2012 because from the 12, and still we are working on the subsequent populations. I'm skipping, and one of my PhD student is working on the directly bone marrow population, stem cell population. So it's a very painful process to isolate the bone marrow from the liver patients because it's very hard, and you can see that needles is there. So you can see that is the bone marrow transplantation. You already heard about the leukemia patients, you heard about the CML patients and AML patients and myeloid aplastic anemia. But this is the future ambitions for the, if we have the hematopoietic stem cells bank, so we can give some kind of the stem cell therapy to the liver patients, and especially cirrhotic patient, to recover the cancer and cirrhotic liver. So it is already proven, and we can work, and we can see that this is the fibrosis growth factor is increasing, then VGF is increasing, lot of growth factor is changing in the cirrhotic patients. So my student is working with this therapeutic efficacy of the intrafemoral bone marrow transplantation in the liver injury. And this is the one story. Just I'm not going in details, but the just interesting part in the hematopoietic stem cells. Normally in the male there is a always that is differentiation going on the hematopoietic stem cells in our bone. But during the pregnancy, that is the estrogen receptor is overexpressed, and there is a more differentiation of the hematopoietic stem cell. So I have made the hypothesis, even published in the paper in the Frontier journals. So there is a estrogen enhance the potentiality of the hematopoietic stem cells in autologous bone marrow infusion to support the better liver functions, and it came in the Frontier Bioscience, and ultimately I become the editor of this Frontier Cancer Molecular Target and Therapies. So this is the idea, but things is that we have worked on this in vitro and in vivo mice model condition, but still it is should go in the clinical trial, and the clinical level studies is still pending. So so it's very difficult to work on the hematopoietic stem cells isolation from the fragmentome. It's very tough. It's not ethically approved. But we work on the different placental microenvironment, and one of my students from the All India Medical Sciences also doing PhD under me. So she is working on the placental microenvironment. What is the oxidative stage, and what is the stem cell or stemness microenvironment is going on over there. So I have mentioned about the hematopoietic stem cells, and a little bit I want to mention about the mesenchymal stem cell also. So another PhD students also working on the mesenchymal stem cells. So mesenchymal stem cell has a immune modulation property, and what I will mention in the previous slide is it also gives the different cytokines. So we are isolating the mesenchymal stem cell from the umbilical cord tissue collections. Then we are doing the flow cytometry to see exactly the purification of the stem cell, which should go to the directly patient. So this work is actually mainly going on in the Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences. So this is the almost last slides I was going to say. That is the still we are thinking about that is the mesenchymal stem cells and bone marrow stem cell therapy. But if we think about that is the what is the hypothesis I made on that is that the survival signaling and macrophage plasticity modulations in the liver microenvironment. And one paper is came in the genes and development. Then when that is the loss of apoptotic signal over there, then there is a increased number of the hematopoietic stem cells and progenitor cells. So there is lot of debates on the clinical therapy, and I published the blood paper, and I was mentioned I was a principal investigator with the fund of the Lady Tera in the National Cancer Institute. And India also, I want to work more about the stem cell therapy, and one of my collaborators is present in the Dharamshala. It is a Devi Shetty Institute in Dr. Shukunda Chakraborty with me, and we are thinking about how we can increase the stem cell therapy by loss of apoptotic potential, but sometimes it can cause more spontaneous hematopoietic malignancies. So it is very tough. So it's my background, because I am involved in both the liver cancer as well as T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So it is a botany department. So I have taken some yesterday one picture from the Chikut Botanical Garden in Nashville in USA. So this is my small research team, and she is Abue. He's basically a technician, so he helps all of us for the real-time PCR flow cytometry. So he's standing in front. So this is something I have made one slides for the botany department, because recently Department of the Health Research also sanctioned one grant on the bioevaluation and identification of the lead molecule for the lung and the colon cancer from the selected medicinal plant. So this is Dr. Boni from the NIST Jorhat is helping us to get these plants. So Lantana species also has some medicinal plant, and I recently also involved in some studies on the Panchkarma, because I was influenced by one Hindi movie called Hawai Zada, where they have shown the history of the aeronautics in the India. So something, the immunological parameter and what is the state signaling of what's going on, how this natural compound is working with the conscious stem cell is still doubts, because people don't know too much about them. So some PhD student from the Amity also working with me, that is Anjali, and Niti is working with me for that. So they want to see in the role of the herbal compounds. So this is my laboratory of matrix, and you can see this is the now lockdown 2 is going on, and 9th June was my birthday. So where somehow we open our lab in our Amity Institute of Molecular Medicines and Stem Cell Research. So this is my acknowledgement. My few collaborators, Joy Prakash, I forgot to mention her name because her work, but she's my good friend in Netherlands. I mentioned Thomas Kopman, Shampa, and Sudesh Nadi is from Jamia Hamdard. So we are in the same bench in the working. Now several research scholars is working in my lab. I already mentioned, and shown the photographs, and those are the collaboration and fundings. I have almost all fundings from India, ICMR, DST, ICSR, DHR, SARB, etc. So this she is my daughter of science. So we are standing in between the cell survival and apoptosis. So this is the vibrant group in Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine. So he is my HOD. So he's a Budepsi Das. He's a founder director of one ICMR Cancer Institute, and as well as he was with ICMR for a long time. And the next year we are doing the International Indian Association for Cancer Research big conference in the NCR region. So we are leading on that. So thank you very much for kind patient to listen my talk. And this is the end. Thank you very much. If I'm happy to take some question if you are in line. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Professor Vishwas, splendid.
Yes.
What a nice delivery you have provided today. We have
Okay.
really spent and thank you once again. Now I am switching over to Dr. Shubhadeep Chakraborty to conduct the interactive session. If there is any question, please put it in the message box. Dr. Shubhadeep Chakraborty will convey it to our honorable speaker. And at the same time, I am requesting all the participants to go to the message box after the completion of our seminar program, because the feedback form link will be given to you only through the message box, not through any other way. So keep it in your mind. After completion of the our session, we'll get the feedback form in the message box and carefully fill it up for regeneration of e-certificate. Okay, thank you. Professor Chakraborty, please.
Am I audible, Kaushikda?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vishwas, for your nice presentation. I am requesting all the participants to type questions in the message box so that I can convey these questions to Professor Vishwas. So please type your question, please.
Hello.
Please type your question. Please mute your sound and please type your question in the message box. As I have told, please type your question in the message box, please. I am requesting to the all participants that please type your questions if you have any kind of question. So please type your questions in the message box, please, or chat box, so that I can convey the questions to the speaker.
Shubhadeep, it is useful, or do you think it's understandable? Or
Yes, Professor Vishwas, it's a
Yes.
really useful message from you. And I have one question that tumor microenvironment, it's different, it's vary from patient to patient for a particular type of cancer. So
Right.
what do you think that customized therapy for each patient will be helpful for to combat this kind of cancer for a particular cancer?
Of course, because customized therapy actually we are doing, because if it is a good places like ILBS and All India Medical Science, that is before treating any liver disease patient, we have to do this immunohistochemistry study. But there is some technical, of course, there is a problem, because if some person came with the liver disease, maybe he don't have tumor, and the ultrasonography is not showing that much. So why he will give the liver biopsy, right? That kind of the question is always come. That is why it's an ethical issue sometimes come. So in the always it is very difficult to diagnose the stage wise in terms of the patient. And the EACL, that is one European organization who control the all therapeutic aspect, like they already declared that is who has already the hepatocellular carcinoma comes from the ultrasonography. We cannot take any liver biopsy from them. So that is some restriction over there. So it's a very difficult, because I am very basic researcher, but my of course ambition is to for the disease level tumor microenvironment, but it's very, very tough, very tough.
Okay, and I have one more question. That is, you were showing the slide of microRNA, mRNA.
Yes,
So, have you any kind of planning for future purpose that creating some kind of microRNA based vaccination for this kind of cancer?
Vaccination is little bit tough in the sense that is vaccine is stable for a long time, right?
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
microRNA, if you read about the microRNA biogenesis, so actually there is a gene, there is a maybe it is a intergenic or intragenic. So it's a
Yeah.
splice product of this product. So this microRNA actually regulates our transcription or translational level. Like it has a some protein is called DORSA. It's bind with the microRNA. Then it is a regulator of the transcription level and in the N-terminal or C-terminal part. So we cannot use the microRNA in the vaccine because it will not stable in the outside. If you put in the microRNA in the serum, so it will degrade immediately because it's only 21 nucleotide base pair. So it's little difficult.
Absolutely. Okay. And I cannot say it is suggestion, but as a botanist, because I am from botany department and botany is my basic subject. So I'm watching your lecture and slides. So you have taken lantana camera from the family Verbenaceae. So
yes, right.
very common plant is there, that is Vinca rosea. In Bengali name is Noyantara. So I think you can also try with that. This is not my suggestion, but I think so. So I have read some papers with Vinca rosea. So for that reason, I'm saying that, and it's a very good presentation. And thanks once again from me. And I am now switching over the microphone to Dr. Kaushik Sengupta, as there is no question.
Actually, Kaushikda have not mentioned because my origin also from the botany, because I am from the colony botany. So, but when I came to the Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, to do the PhD, from that time actually I am completely untouched with the botany because I did the molecular biology and DNA damage, then checkpoint, then subsequently in the US when I was there. So it's the place for the money. So the USA has a very less fund for the plant science. So you have to move the cancer research more. So ultimately, I moved in the cancer research. So that is I'm continuing. So I forgot a lot of things, but people are coming because this Archana Muni from the NIST, she actually working on that, and other several person also coming to me to work on that because I had a cancer cell setup. Yes, good.
Okay.
Shubhadeep, I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Please, Madhubandi, please.
Go on, carry on.
Sir, can drug repurposing of anti-cancer drugs be effective against SARS-CoV-2?
Tell me again, that is?
Sir, the anti-cancer drugs are now being repurposed or repositioned to be treated against SARS-CoV-2 that I had read. So is there any effective strategy against this means approach that can anti-cancer drugs like hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine be effective against SARS-CoV-2?
See, like there is a consequence, but it's very difficult to suggest direct way. But in the COVID-19, what is happening, because in the news channel and the publication you have find that is there is a huge cytokine storm. So cytokine storm means is a immune imbalance, right? Even initially one slide I have shown that is the macrophage population as well as immune cells secrete a lot of cytokine. So this is actually sometime COVID-19 as well as secondary infection also cause the huge number of the cytokine storm. So cytokine storm and the over-inflammation also present in the cancer cells, right? Like chloroquine is not directly cancer drugs, but some cancer drugs can be used for the cytokine storm. But problem is that I don't know, even no researcher don't know, and the other researcher don't know how it will be effective for the exactly vaccine, because it's very, very complicated. Because in terms of the COVID, you see that is our mortality rate is less, and the Brazil mortality rate is more, but humidity and condition is almost same. But it is also depending on the strain to strain. and it is very difficult to target now. This is novel COVID-19. And yes, we are telling a lot in India because we are doing our one week, but in terms of the research, it's very tough, and molecular justification is really tough. It needs a lot of work.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
So I am switching over the microphone to Dr. Kaushik Sengupta.
Okay,
So
great.
Kaushik, please.
Thank you. Whatever the origins you bro, you are in class by yourself right at this moment. So I am proud for you. There should not be any doubt. And
Okay, okay.
So
and
1 minute, please, Kaushik. 1 minute, please.
Yes,
I just want to request Dr. Bishwesh to kindly stop presenting from
Okay,
your
okay.
desktop.
Okay, okay.
So that
Great.
so that will see everyone. Okay.
Okay, okay. Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
so we are almost on the final stage of our session, and I am requesting our IQC coordinator, Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, the most dynamic person in his field, to place his vote of thanks on behalf of Mangadevi Vidyashankar College. Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Kaushikda, and good evening, everybody. So indeed, it's a very nice and illuminating presentation by Professor Dr. Subhrajit Vishwas, our distinguished speaker for the day, and on stem cell and targeted therapy research for cancer treatment. And I believe that his presentation will definitely gain insights into the new modern therapy. So I would like to thank him again for this precious time and his endeavor for this lecture. And next I would like to thank all our participants for this webinar who have come to join with us and make our event successful. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. Shrapan Kumar Rai, and of course our governing body president for their constant support and encouragement for organizing all these kinds of webinars. And finally, I would also like to thank the Department of Botany, the organizers of this webinar, for their constant efforts, and parallelly the team which has supported the technical staff, Professor Dipanjan Ghosh and Sri Amolendu Das, the Department of English and our librarian, were constantly in support, and their constant efforts have made this webinar successful. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for your patience. Thank you.
Sir, since there is some technical problem, I would like to say a few words to you. I am from Zoology Department, Navadip College. And sir, your slides were very interesting, as you had made a very interesting analogy with the use of the film posters and the cartoons. That was very nice sort of slide presentation, sir. Very innovative and very nice, that I wanted to say to you. And it's a heartfelt thank you. You have a very broad field of research. Maybe some things were not at par with my knowledge, but it was very interesting to have you as our honorable speaker. Thank you, sir, from the behalf of Zoology Department also.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for understanding. Thanks.
Hello, Dr. Vishwesh.
Yes, yes.
So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
So
Yes.
there is some technical problem with Kaushikda's internet. So
fine.
I am now concluding this seminar. So thank you once again being with us, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
I am
Thank you very
concluding the seminar has is end. And thank you everyone for participating, and I am sharing the feedback link to the chat box, and please click on that link and fill up your feedback form, and you will get the e-certificate. Thank you everyone. Have a nice day.